Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, on the road again to go out and train some bite work this morning, but it's an hour and a half drive, 2 hours away, so it's typical of me to get online, and when I'm driving down the road, yak at the screen a little bit and what basically is going on with my training programs and what's going on in general. So I've got one dog in for a customer dog. It's about a 5-year-old German Shepherd by the name of Sif. You'll start seeing her show up. She's in for a specific problem, and it's one of those things. If the customer would have said that there was nuisance barking and they're barking and this, I probably would have turned it down, because it's one of those type of behaviors that's harder than heck to overcome. And in this case, the dog's 5 years old, so she's most likely been rehearsing this for a length of time. They've got a stem collar, they've had bark collars, they've obviously been trying to make a big effort to get this dog to slow down as far as the nuisance barking, okay? And it's just that, she's barking a lot till she hears something, she starts barking and going crazy. She sees me, she goes crazy. So I just thought I'd lay out the basics of my overall overview at this point in time. She just came in 2 or 3 days ago. I'm starting to build my relationship. We'll be going out in public here pretty quick, probably later today or tomorrow. She's going to start my whole program of going out in public and all that. Build our relationship. No, good, and yes is still a very important thing, because it gives us what we need to have a communication baseboard that we can use. So when she hears no, she knows that's a negative, whether it's positive punishment, robbing her of food, negative punishment actually, robbing her of food, and or they've been using a lot of suppression, right? And it's not working. The dogs, the bottom line is, you got a high drive dog and they start barking, they're going to drive through. You know, she was telling me the dog is barking right through the bark collar, right? And that's what happens. You know, you see a lot of the law enforcement dogs, example, they're used to using that stem collar and trying to use it to suppress behavior, to punish it, to get it to go away when they're trying to get it out, or other behaviors. And a lot of times the dogs will drive right through that, and you actually make it worse, because now they're getting used to tolerating at a higher level, and you turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, pretty soon you got no more ceiling. You got nowhere to go to, right? So you got to be smarter than the dog. And in this case, again, she's rehearsed this behavior. Is another issue. She's 5 years old, so she's been rehearsing this behavior. So it becomes an ingrained behavior over time that is harder to get rid of, and harder to extinguish. Using some of Michael Ellis's big words. I've been on his site. You guys, if you don't know it, Michael Ellis, on his Michael Ellis's dog training school, he's got his website up that he puts out notifications for live classes and things that are going on at his facility. And then he's doing webinars. He's got classes he's given, and he's filming all this stuff. And he's slowly but surely starting to build up the content of his site, okay? And he's doing it on his own with his partner in crime, trying to think of his name right now, the nosework guy. So whatever. So bottom line is, they're slowly but surely putting that together. Now, I just went and signed up for membership. It's $70 for membership. You're going to get dinged every month automatically, right? Keep that in mind. Now, they've also got their offerings a la carte, which means you can get a video on a certain subject at $45. Right? And then if you want full membership, it's $70. Now, the value to me goes up with time, because there's going to be a larger library that's starting to be propagated, you know, and that means that now I have something that makes it worthwhile. Now, I just signed up for $70, and there were some things that I wanted. I did the a la carte first when he was talking about, I think it was variable reward, or actually it was fading lures. These are subjects, again, that I'm familiar with, and I've done them before, and they work real well, but you can kind of forget. I like to have a library. I like to have an ability to go and pull that book off the shelf, just like a doctor would, right? When you all of a sudden you have a case that's there, and you're looking at this case, and you need to get your juices flowing again. Remind yourself the whole subject matter, and dig into it as you assess and make your decisions on what you're going to do with that case, right? That individual instance in that dog. So first thing I'm doing with Sif is I'm going out. I know I bounced from Michael Ellis all the way back to Sif again, but bottom line, Michael's got a great way of explaining things. It's one of my go-tos, and he's synonymous with the the baseboard of the community of professional dog training. If you don't know who Michael Ellis is, you want to be a professional, that's where you want to go, right? So his knowledge base is tremendous, and he's been a major influence on the dog training community, the dog training profession overall, and that is something that's admirable. And it's very cool that he's that good at being able to explain things, break that scientific terms down to a layman's terms, and really get it presented in such a way that you can, as a trainer, you can soak this stuff in. Now, if you're just a beginner and you don't have any experience at all, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but you're not going to get as much out of it because you're not as used to soaking information out of that sort of a format, right? I find people a lot of times they think that they go watch these videos and they do this, they're going to become no. It's only one resource in a many in my read. I've got 30 years worth of books and videos and all kinds of stuff that I've got compiled. But I really find Michael is one of the best out there. And now that he's doing his own thing and he's kind of branched away from Liebert, not that they're not associated anymore, but he's doing his own thing on his site, so that he can stay home more. He's getting older, he doesn't have to travel as much, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what they're doing. They're building that site. Tremendous resource. All right, so back to Sif. Sif, I've done 2 or 3 days of just bonding with her, getting her used to the clicker and the food and all that. She's already had training before, so she's receptive to a lot of this already. But you've got a 5-year-old dog that's got a rehearsed behavior that is very hard to solve because this is nuisance barking. She's barking, she hears a noise, she starts barking. She is excited when you're coming towards the kennel, she's barking. And most people will go after this and they will try to suppress it to get it to go away. I am going to use suppression, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to be mixing it in with a lot of little things to try to convey the thought to her of what I want, the concepts, right? So one of those things, if you understand barking, what's one of the easiest ways to start to teach a dog not to bark? Back to my yin and yang theory, right? So what I'll do is I'll teach the dog a bark command and teach them to bark on command, get the bark, and then I will say nope, and I will start teaching the dog the word quiet. It's an opposite sides of the coin, head and tail, right? One side is go and one side is stop. And once you do that, you start to hit both sides of it, not just one. The dog will start to understand the word quiet or whatever your word is, and it'll start to understand what it means to shut up, right? But you teach it to bark first, then you teach it to stop barking, right? So that's probably what I'll do with Sif. I'll give her a bark command and get her to bark, hopefully. And then from there, I'll teach her the word quiet with some suppression. But there'll be a bunch of other little things that I'm going to be using, which is dog psychology overall, right? And I'll be approaching it with a multifaceted approach, not just thinking that I can drive through with suppression, take a baseball bat, as I like to say, and beat the dog up to get him to stop something. A lot of times, guys, it's not going to work, right? But if you mix it, you understand enough about dog psychology, and you come at it at a different approach, you're going to probably have a lot more success than if you just try to use suppression. The dog will end up learning to tolerate and bark their way right through that negative, right? Happens all the time, like I said, in law enforcement, right? So it is what it is, but we have it all the time. In that context. So what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to get across is it'll be a multifaceted approach to try to overcome this problem. Am I going to be able to get it done in 30 days? No, I don't think so. But I will be able to establish enough of a communication baseboard and enough consistency and patterns that I am going to be approaching it in that I can hand it over to the owner and get them to keep after it. Right? See what I'm saying? So the value to me is putting as much training as I can. He'll sit down, stay, exposure to environment, all the things I normally do in a way that I can establish that relationship with the dog. Right? And that's what it's all about. And then from there, we'll be able to grow it and then grow into overcoming the overall problem. And this is not an easy one, guys. This stuff is, when you get behaviors like this, especially with a rehearsed behavior, and the dog's been doing it for any length of time, that behavior is ingrained, right? So Again, you're not going to get rid of it right away. Human nature always wants to spank, always wants to suppress. That's our reactions to trying to solve the problem. And a lot of times it's not going to work. It might reduce it a little bit, might make you feel better because you're yelling, quiet, quiet, and you're getting rid of all your frustration because the dog keeps barking. But is the dog really learning and understanding the concept that you're trying to convey to it? There's the key. So some of this stuff is not easy, and that's why they call it professional, because it isn't easy, right? Now, if I would have known that that's all they had a problem with in the beginning, I probably would have turned them down, because it is more of a pain in the ass type of behavior to try to solve. It's not a heel sit down problem. It's an ingrained genetic stamp with the propensities of genetics and behavior that are ingrained, hardwired in the dog, right? And it's not heel, sit down, stay. See, so many trainers get out there and the public always looks at us and thinks that the dog is a robot because of what they see. What is their perceptions? Think about that. When you're approaching a customer and trying to educate them and teach them, you have to, first off, that's one of the first things I address in my first initial consultation. My meeting with the customer to shake their hand, to get to know them, to see the dog, and to evaluate the overall problem. One of my first big things that I go through, I almost have kind of a lecture format, is that perceptions is everything. What do they perceive? How do they perceive dog training? And if they perceive it like the movies and they think the dog's going to be Rin Tin Tin and a robot, they're sadly mistaken, right? But if they're willing to work with me and let me teach and educate them, and they're willing to get off the couch, they will go far, right? But it takes two to tango. You got to have the participation of the client. If they're not going to get off the couch and work with you, you're not going to pretty much succeed, and you're going to have a negative taste in the customer's mouth because of what they perceive and how they conceive what the service is to them, right? It's their perceptions that matter, right? What I call that human factor, right? Dog training is not just the dog. If anything else, it's a lot more about that whole environmental behavior and location that's really the chemistry of the owner and the dog, and their patterns and their routines and their daily flow through life, right? That's what's going to make the difference. So you got to have your customers' participation, or they're basically pissing their money away. And I tell my customers that from day one. If you don't get off the couch, you don't put the work in, you're pissing your money away. And that's what you need to understand. A dog is not a robot. You know, everybody has a different perspective in their head. Now, oh, what a cute little thing, and they conceive certain things within what they think that animal is going to be for them, right? Why do they choose the breed they do? And there's certain things that makes them interested in owning that breed. Example is the Malinois. What makes most people nowadays go crazy on the Malinois, and you have all these people that have gotten this dog, it's oversaturated. They're being put downs in the hundreds in the kennels, you know. And same thing with Connie Corsos. They're getting put down left and right. It's sad. It really is. Because of the human factor, and because of our society in America especially. That's what we're talking about. I don't live in Europe, so I have to address it from this perspective. But they're getting put down in droves because everybody and the brother, the people that are heavy hobbyists or they've gotten into the breed, they learn what they learn, and then they push it off on the public because they're breeding the dogs and they get a litter, and they end up selling their dogs to people that have no clue. Do they stop and screen those people? Do they stop and educate them and make sure that that's going to be a good home for the dog? A lot of times they don't. Okay, and that's the problem, right? Because they don't want to get stuck with that. It's a lot of food, a lot of shit to scoop up. It gets to get old real quick, right? So again, what is the perception of that person that thinks he's going to be a breeder? 90% of the time, it's, oh, I just want my dog to have puppies because she needs to have puppies. They don't have a clue, right? So if you want to be a responsible trainer, you need to realize that it's about educating your customer more than anything, right? So, all right, I'll let you go. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, signing off. You guys have a good day. Another little roundabout yak session. So we'll be showing you some more of these videos with Sif, talking about nuisance barking and how I handled it, and we'll see how it goes. We don't know, right? We'll find out. Talk to you guys later. Thanks, guys.